Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about the return of Jesus. Now this is something that Christians have been waiting for thousands of years. Here's the gist of it. In the Gospels, Jesus spoke several times about returning after his death. And then in the book of Revelations, John receives a vision of the return of Christ and the start of a new age. Now a lot of Christians actually avoid the book of Revelations because it involves so many symbolic images and unclear prophecies that it's easy to get confused and misinterpret meanings. That being said, most Christians seem to agree that at some point Jesus will appear in the sky with an army of angels. At that point he's going to destroy Satan, destroy the demons, and sentence all non-Christians to hell. For all the remaining Christians and all the Christians in heaven, he'll set up a new earth, a heaven on earth, and there will be no more sickness, hunger, or sadness. Now there are some additional beliefs out there about the rapture and the tribulation period, and although those have become more popular in recent years, most Christians still seem to believe that Jesus is just going to show up at any moment. When I became a born-again Christian, this was something that I thought about constantly. But after a while I began to notice some inconsistencies in what I and others were expecting. For one, we in America were all expecting him to show up in America, which seems strange since none of the Bible actually took place in America. In fact, I think it would be safe to say that everyone is expecting him to show up in the sky right over their house. Also, this was exactly what people were expecting the first time Jesus showed up. They thought that God would emerge from the sky in glory and power and smite all his enemies. That's why they were so disappointed and even unbelieving when he showed up as a human being teaching about how to live a good life. It seemed weird that we'd all make the exact same mistake and expect God to do it differently this time. But like I said, this is something that constantly occupied my mind, which is why I took a particular interest when I heard that Baha'is believed that Christ had already returned, and that we're currently living in the new age. What I found even more interesting was that they had math to back it up. Here's what I mean. In Matthew 24, Jesus' disciples are asking him about when he'll return. In verse 15, he begins to reference a specific prophecy that was spoken by Daniel that involves the Abomination of Desolation. Throughout this prophecy, Daniel talks about both the first and second appearance of Christ. He says that the period of time for Christ to appear and be killed is 70 weeks. He also says that Christ will appear again after 2,300 days. It's important to note that in biblical prophecies, it's generally agreed that 1 day equals 1 year. So 70 weeks would equal 490 years, and 2,300 days would equal 2,300 years. Okay, the next question is, what's the starting point? Daniel also gives that answer by saying that it's from the time that the decree is made to rebuild Jerusalem. This was the year 457 BC. Alright, let's do some math. So 70 weeks times 7 days equals 490 days, or years. 490 minus 457 BC equals 33 AD. Take the year 0 into account and you have 32 AD, the year of Christ's crucifixion. Okay. Since that lined up, let's do the math for Christ's second coming. Let's take 2,300 years minus 457 BC, and we get 1843 AD. Take the year 0 into account, and we have 1844 AD. I don't know about you, but I hadn't really heard about anything significant happening in 1844. But a lot actually did happen back then. See, many people had figured out this math and were eagerly awaiting Jesus to appear in the sky. So many people were anticipating this event that it's now commonly known as the Great Disappointment. But like I said, everyone was expecting Jesus to return in the sky directly over their house. So did the prophecies mention anything about where his return would happen? Actually, yes. Jeremiah, Daniel, and Ezekiel all said that it would happen in Elam. Elam is located in present-day Iran. Well, did anything of significance happen in Iran in 1844? Well, as a matter of fact, it did. A young man who was known as the Bab, or the Gate, showed up in the city of Shiraz in modern-day Iran on May 23, 1844, and announced that he had been sent to announce the coming of the Great One. His ministry lasted for several years before he was martyred, and then a man emerged who went by the name Baha'u'llah, or Glory of God. Baha'u'llah claimed to be the second Christ that was spoken about in the prophecies. During his 30-year ministry, he wrote volumes of books that reconciled questions about other religions and established the basis for the Bahá'í religion. There are many more prophecies that are claimed to be fulfilled and lots of details about the ministry of Baha'u'llah that I won't go into here because this would become a very long video. But I do encourage you to go out and research for yourself because it's very fascinating. The one final point that I'll bring up is the New Age that the second coming of Christ was supposed to usher in. Now you may look around and say, this doesn't look like heaven on earth. This can't be the new world. But consider this. Baha'is believe this new age was going to be marked by an increase in information and advancement. If you think about how quickly the human race has progressed in the last 150 years in scientific advancement, it isn't hard to think of this as a new age of enlightenment and discovery. In fact, if that day, May 23, 1844, sounded familiar, it's because it's the same day that the first telegraph message was sent by Samuel Morse. So there you go. To sum it up, the second coming already happened. It happened in 1844 when the Bab announced that the Great One was coming. The Great One was Baha'u'llah. He is the founder of the Bahá'í religion and had a 30-year ministry where he wrote volumes of books on many different subjects. We're currently living in the new age that was promised. It's a time of so much incredible scientific and technological advancement that it's changing the face of the world as we know it. Thank you so much for watching, and please feel free to check out some of my other videos as I continue to explore the Baha'i faith and how it relates to common Christian traditions.